Jeff, the host of the Gridiron.
Well, welcome to the Gridiron, baby. If you give this video a thumbs up or maybe share this video, that would be absolutely freaking phenomenal. If you subscribe to my channel, thank you. Please go down below, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon. And when next time I go live or if I put a video out, you'll be notified. And it's free of charge. What do you got to lose? It's totally free of charge. But if you are subscribed to my channel, thank you. If you want to help support my channel out, description box below, very top link takes you to my membership page. I got 3 different membership levels. Each one has their own little perks to them. So once again, if you want to help support my channel out, it would mean so much to me. And I thank you in advance. And then finally, just underneath that, there's another link takes you to my Facebook group. It's called the New York Giants, The Gridiron. It's my Facebook group. We have over 9,900 members in the group, and it is doing simply marvelous, might I add. Basically, if I'm alive and breathing, and if I got internet access, I ain't putting stuff in this group down there 365. It's called the New York Giants, The Gridiron. It's my Facebook group. Please join it. You will not be dissatisfied. I promise. Woo! Super Bowl, baby! Woo! Absolutely unfreaking believable. Unbelievable. But then I guess after the past 3 years, after the past 2 years, then you throw this one in there. I mean, could you really be, any more surprised? It's just straight trash, straight absolute garbage. It's just unbelievable. Yeah, they expect you to waste 3 hours of your life watching absolute garbage. But if you look, right, there is a common theme here, right? The Giants have been just totally outclassed, right? Every half of the first game of the season, Tennessee, Dallas, Vikings, and yesterday against the Commanders, just totally outclassed. In the first, we just absolutely come out, and it's like we have no idea what game. I thought like we go out there, we think we're playing cricket, and the other team's actually playing football. We can go back here. Let's go back. I can't remember. Was it 17-3 we were down against the Titans? All right, let's go. 2022 New York Giants. Just totally. It's like, thankfully, as what our defense did yesterday, it gave us a chance heading into the fourth quarter. We were still in the game. We were only down one score, right? Of course, the offense, couldn't find the end zone. But let's see, what were we at? Tennessee, the first game of the season, right? Box score. What was the score at halftime? I know we had made that nice push. Oh, I'm sorry, 13-0. We were down 13-0. And then Saquon got a 4-yard. Let's say, okay. Okay. Then we scored 2 touchdowns. The Titans went ahead, and then we came back. And thankfully, the Titans missed that field goal, right at the end of the game. But Giants deserve that. As much as we've gone through, but so 13-0, right in the first half. I'll probably do a video on this here. All right, let's go 13-0. Let's go to the next year. Well, we lost 40-0, but I can't remember what it was at halftime to the Cowboys. It's the next season, so we get 13. All right, so we go game 1 here against the Cowgirls. We were losing 26-0, so that's 39-0. 39-0. All right, and we'll go last season against the Vikings. Let's see, next season, 2024 against the Vikings. So 39-0. 39-0, 53-3. 53-3. I'll do a video on this here. There's this 53-3. And then, let's see, 53-6. 53. So 67-6. 67-6. We've been outscored, in the first half of the day, 67-6. We haven't scored a touchdown. We scored 2 field. Played 4 mother football games. First games of the season. And in the first half of those 4 games, we haven't scored a touchdown. We scored 2 field goals in those games. 67-6. We've been outscored in the first half. I mean, are you kidding me? Unbelievable. I mean, it's as bad as it was. It's as bad as it was. We scored the field goal in the third, so it was 14-6. Couldn't punch anything in the end zone, in the red zone. We had that settle for that long Graham Gano field goal, 55-yarder, Mr. Automatic. He looked, thankfully, he looks healthy. Okay. But then, of course, we got down, after we got down, 21-6, we got that nice drive down the field, but got down inside the 5, couldn't score. I mean, of course, we had to go for it. We could have easily kicked the field goal, made it 21-9, but, it was late in the fourth quarter. You got to go for a touchdown there. So, but just, we did not control the line of scrimmage, Now, there is also a difference here, too, because they got Daniels, we got Russell Wilson. Now, it's like you could see, I don't know if they, knew our plays or what it was. It was just Russell would turn around and go to, hand, as he's turning to hand the ball off, 952 of the Commanders were all just charging the line of scrimmage and jumping this gap and just penetration, just undercutting guys and just getting in the backfield and all that. So as Russell's getting ready to hand the ball up, there's automatically 13 guys in the backfield already, just laying on the ground. They're ready to make a tackle and stuff. It's like, as they're there ready to get the running back. Now, the Giants can't do that because of Jayden Daniels. So there is a difference there. Jayden did what Jayden does. He didn't have Jayden had a good game. Could have been better because there was, the Commanders did drop some balls. That's about the only thing. I mean, it really wasn't, Graham Gano made both his field goals. Brian Burns looked very, very good. But, I mean, there's a few bright spots sprinkled in there, right? But, there wasn't much. Thankfully, I think Ertz dropped a couple of passes, so there were some passes that were dropped, or it certainly could have been worse, right? But we just did not control. I mean, I don't know, with sexy is, we're going to go over. This is a little farther down our program here this evening, but we're going to go over, how many snaps he was in. I mean, he definitely had to have him on a pitch count because, his arm and everything, his elbow might have been feeling okay, but he was not in, tip-top 100% football shape. So you could only have him in, all the guys, right, on a pitch count. Carter was only in there for 37 defensive snaps, I think, but I think he was on, it looks like we found ourselves a guy coming in off the corner on the punts. Huh? I mean, I think he was on 5 special teams plays, Carter. I mean, you go back to back in 81, right? Let's not forget about the playoff game when we went down to Philadelphia to play the Eagles, right? The Eagles were in 1980. They were the NFC. They lost to the 27-10 to the Raiders, but they were the representatives for the NFC. They had a very good fundamentally that Dick Vermeil is a coach. I mean, it's a very sound team. So in 81, actually we made the playoffs. We went there and, on special teams, punt coverage, we got, who's the gunner? Lawrence Taylor. Ain't nobody blocking him. Good luck. God bless you, brother. You got a healthy Lawrence Taylor. Ain't nobody blocking him. Ain't nobody out there. You don't have nobody, period, is blocking him. Because if you put somebody bigger on him, he's just going to run around them, run by him. And you could put like two big, huge people on him, but he's just going to get around them, and then he's gone. So those two guys, they're out there for nothing. You put two smaller guys on there who are fast, he's just going to run them over. So ain't nobody blocking Lawrence Taylor as a gunner. And he caused the fumble, right? Wally Henley. If you ever listen to Lawrence Taylor talking about it, he was talking about it, I think, with Chris Collins, where there was a table. Ray Lewis, I think Harry Carson might have been there. There was a couple other guys were there, but he was talking about, because Wally Henry would return punts. He never fair catched. He would never go like this. He would always return a punt. And as Lawrence Taylor was running down the field, right? I mean, he could just sense as the ball's going to land, Lawrence is going to be there. And Lawrence is running down, and he's like, yo, you better do one of these, baby. Oh, Wally Henry didn't do one of these. He went to catch it, and basically just as he caught it, Lawrence Taylor said he caught him right here. If you look at the video, I don't know if he caught him quite right here, but he hit him, caused the fumble, and the Giants recovered. And it was huge. And thank goodness for Wally Henry. He fumbled the kickoff, which I think Haynes recovered in the end zone for a touchdown for us. We wound up winning the playoff game 27-21. Shocked the football world. But, I mean, hey, if Carter wants to play in special teams, let him do his thing, right? I mean, the dude got in there, blocked the punt. Right? That's not something, you're not thinking, John, we got good special teams. We'll block punts. And no, you don't really think that, right? So he came close, and he actually got his hand on one. So give him some kudos there. But, I mean, it was just the line of scrimmage. We were just, and I said, before I went on my rampage, like Dexter Lawrence, I'm not exactly sure, he might have been feeling good. I feel great. Let's go, put me in, coach, but, I'm only going to be so good because I'm not in football shape. Now, it might be the same thing with him. Maybe as the weeks go by, Dexter will get a little more better and better and better. He could have been out there and just been gassed. Who knows? But I didn't hear Dexter Sexy's name that often. I said Burns was amazing, but it was just that line of scrimmage was just you got to give it to the Commanders. It was we got in the red zone, couldn't do anything. Our offensive line was just, and to be fair, we're going to go over the offensive line just a little bit here, but it wasn't all Andrew Thomas or the lack thereof missing Andrew Thomas. I mean, Hudson was not very good. Not good. We're going to talk about it. Hudson. He had his issues, shall we say. But a lot of the interior was a problem. A lot of guys getting into the backfield. We just can't turn around, hand the ball off, and our guys are just moving guys. It's just not happening. We're going to have fun against the Cowboys because Brian Baldy, good old Baldy, he did a little breakdown and it was showing, I think it was the last 7 carries that Saquon had, obviously on Thursday night when the Cowboys and the Eagles, were playing one another. I mean, it looked like in the beginning of that game. Well, I mean, if following the game, because I didn't watch the game because I was preparing to do a video, but following the game, I mean, it looked like it was going to be like an all-time record. It was like, is there defenses on the field? Maybe they only have like 3 guys on a defense on each side. I mean, it was like a tennis match. You score, I score, you score, I score, you score. Then in the second half, things really tightened. Of course, second half, the defense is tightened down. Of course, ABCD Lamb. His hands tightened down. His hands apparently were inside of his jersey because he couldn't catch anything. Guy wants $85 trillion a year, but he's not going to catch a pass. That's a bit odd. If he wants the money, but when you have a bad game, do you give any of that money back? No? Yeah, sure. Cowboys could have won that game. But anyway, meanwhile, back at the ranch, but Baldinger did a very good job of breaking down. I think it was the last 7 carries that Saquon had. He just showed, the Cowboys were, you go into Philadelphia, and I said it wasn't like this the whole game, obviously, but toward the end there, they did a very good job of just shutting down Saquon. Quite a few of his carries looked a lot like the Giants. Like, at the snap, guys are just getting in there, penetrating, shooting the gaps, or if they were getting blocked, they were getting blocked in the backfield. Sometimes you just turn around and you got 3 or 4 bodies just laying. You can't grab the ball and just take off running for a hole if you got bodies laying all over you. The Cowboys did a very, very good job of that. And if the Cowboys were able to do that to the Eagles' offensive line, they could be a rough afternoon for the Giants when we play the Cowboys this Sunday. Mr. Tram, that dude wants to play some football. I think we know that's a good pick right there. But even he couldn't get anything going because every time, it just seemed like when he's in the backfield, it's like they just seem to expect him maybe a run, and just as soon as the ball gets snapped, what did he wind up with? Let's take a look here. Box score. Was nothing. 2 carries for -3 yards. Yeah. So, the thing was, is as soon as he had the ball, there was people in the backfield. Yeah. But, he picked up that blitz on that Malik Neighbors completion. He stoned whoever came running in, he stoned him. He got moved back a little, but he came to block. That's the thing that just really, one more time for the hearing impaired, really pisses me off, is that you get somebody like Darren Waller who makes X amount of dollars, and we put him in the backfield a couple times, and as maybe a lead blocker on when we were playing the Bills, and he comes off and he takes his helmet off, he's on the sideline. What am I doing here? Blocking? I don't block. A guy makes all this money and stuff, and he's because he has to block a couple plays, maybe he's willing to retire. Then you look at Cam Scadaboo, who's a 4th-round pick, making probably maybe not even $1 million a year. Just put me on the field. I don't give a rat's rear end what I'm doing. I don't care. I'm going to hit somebody. So it's like, I can't. Good. I'm glad the Dolphins got smoked yesterday. Good. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Daniel Jones, but and then that other play, we had him out wide. Of course, we caught it 1 or 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, but the first 2 guys that came at him missed him. He just boom, and then of course he picked up like about 6 yards or so. But the problem is every time he runs into a guy and then he runs into another. Of course, the cavalry's coming, so sooner or later there's going to be a bunch of guys, but just his attitude and everything, just that's what we need. Hopefully he can stay healthy, because the problem with something like that kind of play, could beat you up. So hopefully, he made it through college and all that stuff and everything, playing that way. So let's hope he can do that in the pros. Now, the one nice thing maybe in the pros is that, when he was at Arizona State, 99.9% of the plays goes to Cam Scadaboo, right? Whether it's a pass or he throws passes, they run the ball. Every play goes through him. It's not going to be that way in the pros. So hopefully, if we're lucky, right, Cam could, he's not going to get 95% of the carries. So hopefully he can weather the storm. But they played like they wanted it. They played it, they tougher. They controlled the line of scrimmage. We didn't, and our run defense once again. I mean, let's see here. Daniels did what Daniels did. I mean, that's the one of the problems. It's like going against Lamar Jackson, right? It's when he gets the ball and he's going to turn around and look like he might hand the ball off. You can't have 812 guys just crashing into the backfield ready to tackle the running back, because he just takes the ball and just runs around the edge and he's off and running. So that's where, they have a huge advantage, because, for the most part, Russell Wilson is not going to do that. Russell Wilson, if he runs, is, out of life or death situation. We don't have many planned runs for Russell Wilson, but even if you take Daniels' runs out of there, I mean, the Commanders had 220 yards rushing. Take Daniels, he had 68. So just because I'm a moron, just make it easy. Say he had 70 yards rushing, 220. The Commanders had 150 yards rushing, and that's without Daniels. 150 yards rushing. I'm going to read a little thing here. I'm going to read. It is worse than what we gave up last year. And last year we were not a very good run defense either. 150 yards is just, way too much. Way too much. I said if the Commanders didn't have all those drop passes, I mean, say the Commanders had, Daniels had 200 and after the sacks, he had 212 yards, 220. I mean, talk about balanced, right? He had 233 yards passing, but you take the sacks away, he had 212 yards passing, 220 yards rushing. I mean, talk about balance, 200 and 200. I mean, my goodness. Wow. What a balance. The Giants had, after the sacks, the Giants had 157 yards passing and 74 yards rushing. We ran the ball 23 times for 74 yards. Basically, we had like 3 yards a carry. I mean, if you take Russell Wilson's carries out, we had 30 yards rushing. We ran the ball 15 times for 30 yards. Our running backs, 15 times for 30. We averaged 2 yards a carry. 2 yards a carry. I don't remember what. Let's see what. Let's see. So they had 21 carries for 150 yards. So just say I'm going to dumb it down. Oh, all right. Let me see what we got here. 21 for 150. Let me get my trusty calculator out here. 150 divided by 21. They averaged 7.1 yards a carry. So they averaged 7 yards a carry. We averaged 2. So what is that? They averaged 3.5 yards, 3.5 times more per carry than we did. I mean, 7 yards a carry. We had 2. Absolutely, unbelievably atrocious. And then you got this. I mean, kind of something like what I was talking about in the beginning. You know what I mean? But what I was talking about initially when we first came on, and I was talking about the Giants, in the past, Brian Dable, they said 4 opening day games. In the first half of those 4 opening day games, we've scored a grand total of 2 field goals. 2. We've never had any more than 3 points at the halftime of any one of those 4 games of field goal. We've had 4 games, and we've scored a grand total of 6 points in the first half of those 4 opening day games. 6 points. I said, what did I say? 67-6, I think it was. We've been outscored 67-6 in the first half of his opening day games from 2022. I mean, as I said, even the one that we won against the Titans, we were down 13-0 at halftime. But unlike, but like, in 2022, our defense held firm in the second half, gave the offense a chance to come back, and we wound up scoring 3 touchdowns in the second half. Here, our defense, they had that one drive. The Commanders, by like halfway through the fourth quarter, they went like 80 yards, went down a whole length of the field, like 9 plays, and just scored, and that basically put the game out of reach. But we had a chance. We had it. The defense was giving us a chance. After a while, you give up all those rushing yards, all those passing. You get tired after a while. And the thing is, too, is you look at like with Russell Wilson. He's one type of quarterback. Obviously, Jayden Daniels is another type of quarterback. It's like being on the field, with like a Michael Vick or something like that. You gotta, you gotta be on your P's and Q's, everything. Because you never know when the guy's going to take off and start running with it. It's really difficult, obviously. Okay, gotta be a rocket scientist to figure that out. But it's difficult, very tiring to try to play football against a quarterback like that, right? After a while, you just get tired. Look, if our offense was able to do anything, give our defense. In the beginning of the second half, our defense got off the field. It was giving us a chance. We kept giving the offense a chance, but finally that one drive in the second, in the fourth quarter, led to a touchdown, and the game was basically over after that. But as bad as the first half has been for the Giants in the Brian Dable era of the openers, right? You got to go back to 1940, 41, and 42. Talk about the Detroit Lions. You got to go back that far before a team, right, has gone. What the Giants have gone, right? The last 3 opening day games without scoring a touchdown. And you can't say, it wasn't Malik Neighbors, or you can't say it wasn't Saquon Barkley, or, we had Saquon Barkley against the Vikings, right? That game was bad. Don't get me wrong. But actually that one was almost identical to this one here. Basically, kind of like I'm sorry. The Viking one, we didn't have Saquon. It was the Cowboy game. We had Saquon, right? But the last 2 were basically almost, if you ever see My Cousin Vinny, identical, right? Because last year we lost 28-6. However, Daniel Jones throws the pass to Van Ginkel, who walks into the end zone for a touchdown for a pick 6. So basically, the defense last year gave up 21 points. So it was like 21-6 last year without the Daniel Jones. Just, hey, there's Van Ginkel. Don't get me wrong, Van Ginkel, he did a phenomenal job getting the ball, just jumping up, getting the ball, corralling it, and going. Hey, he deserved that interception. He did a fantastic job, but. Basically, with the defense last year, gave up 21 points, and we scored 6. Right? Same thing here. Defense gave up 21, we scored 6. But you got to go back to 1940, 41, 42. So let's go back 85 years in time, shall we? Because we all know, right? The last 3 years, the Giants have not scored a touchdown. Right? 40-0, 28-6, 21-6. So let me share my screen here. And there we go. Let's go back to 1940. Now, this one's a bit odd because in the first game of the 1940 season for the Detroit Lions, neither team scored a touchdown, as we see here, right? Against the Cardinals, right? Nothing. So the Lions were not a fantastic team that year. They did wind up beating the Bears one time, 17-14. So that was one of their highlights of the season. But they were not a fantastic team. But so they got shut out. It was 0-0 against the Cardinals. This is 1940 Detroit Lions. So let's go to the next season, 1941. The Detroit Lions. Whoops. They lost 23-0 to the Packers. And what was their record? They were 4-6-1. All right, once again, not a very good team. Not a very good team that year. Right, so they didn't first two games didn't score a point of the 1940 and 1941 seasons. You got nothing, and a 23-0. All right, so then 1942 Detroit Lions. We'll go to the next season here. Oops. And they got shut out again. Right? And what was their record? They were 0-11. Right? But to be fair, this is also during the war too. I mean, a lot of teams got totally decimated in 1942, World War II. You know, some of the teams really got decimated by people going and fighting the war. Right? So I mean, you can see here. You look here, they were the Lions were 0-11. They not one game did they score in double digits. They scored 1, 2, 3, 4. They scored 5 touchdowns, right? 5. And they kicked 1 field goal. They played 11 games. They kicked 1 field goal all year long. 1 field goal. And they scored 5 touchdowns in 11 games. So, you know, unfortunately, a lot of the teams were like this. You know, for some reason, some of the teams like the Chicago Bears, not necessarily all the guys wound up going into the war. So they had some of their good guys. The Chicago Bears, you know, like some guy by the name of the 26-year-old, some guy by the Hall of Fame, Sid Luckman here. I'm not sure why the Bears were able to keep some guys who were really good and other teams couldn't. Don't know, but it is what it is. But all right, stop sharing. All right, so should the Giants target a wide receiver trade? No. Well, they do need. I mean, they could use another weapon. The thing is that they got to fix this offensive line. It's almost like should we get a better quarterback in there? Should we get a better wide receiver? Should we get a better I mean, until they get a better offensive line, hopefully I'm going to talk about this in a little bit with the offensive line. I mean, Hudson had a rough day taking over Andrew Thomas, but also, I mean, if Thomas is not there, or Thomas is there, the interior of the offensive line was not doing very, very well. I mean, Thomas could have kept maybe somebody out from the outside, but the interior was not doing very well at all. Not very well at all. I mean, I would certainly like to see him next season, whether it's in free agency or in the draft, maybe target another, nice wide receiver. I mean, okay, so if you got Malik Neighbors on one side, you can get somebody else on the other side. Now, there was that one play that you see, when I see it, I saw it on Facebook, but I'm sure it's on other platforms as well too. There was one play that they were trying to target. I guess maybe Malik Neighbors was being doubled over the middle, but then I think the guy who was covering Slayton fell down, and Slayton's running wide open down the right sideline, and ball didn't get thrown his way. So some of it is also. I always listen to Big Blue Kickoff Live every day. They're live Monday through Friday. They're around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, somewhere around there. I always listen to their shows because those guys work for the Giants. Okay, so they see every game, they watch the film, they know the players, all that stuff. And Paul Dottino, he was there, he was watching the game, and he said, Russell Wilson is like 5'11", and one of the things that's the Achilles heel of a 5'11" quarterback is if you got people right in his face, he can't see. If you give him a nice clean pocket, if he can stand back in the pocket, and he's got a nice bubble around where he can just look around and start dancing and stuff like that. He might see Slayton wide open down the field or something. But they were saying, the guys were getting pushed in the backfield, and just guys are in his face, and he's that small, he can't see. How do you fix the one that it's just so perplexing because it's also perplexing. For me to tell you, I don't know how to fix it. You can just look at last year, the first 5 games when they had Thomas, Runyon Jr., John Michael Schmitz, Greg Van Roten, and Illuminor, right? They had the 5 there. The first 5 games, we were 2-3. We didn't look very good, obviously, in the Viking game, right? But we were still 2-3. If we had a field goal kicker against the Commanders, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I get it, But out of every 100 games, what it may be 1 out of every 100 game, a team doesn't have a kicker at the end of the game because he gets injured. I mean, it doesn't happen very often. So, as bad as last season was, that's just a little bit more bad luck sprinkled on one of the games. The Giants didn't actually have a field goal kicker. Well, if we had a field goal kicker, right, we might possibly quite have won that game, right? But anyway, we were 2-3. We could have been 3-2. But after first 5 games, we were 2-3, or once again, could have been 3-2. Then once Andrew Thomas gets injured, the whole rest of the season we wind up winning 1 game. So you look at the first 5 games, we wasn't a top 10 unit, whatever, but you could win with that unit. But after that, after Andrew Thomas got injured and we started putting different guys, we had wound up with 10 different starting offensive line configurations over the rest of the season, which I think was tied for the worst in the league. And I don't think any team in Super Bowl history has ever won a Super Bowl, right? Been a Super Bowl champion by leading the league in offensive line configurations. So that's just a recipe for disaster. So that killed the Giants. So, but the thing is, bringing back those guys, it's like, well, the guys last year, the first 5 games, they did pretty good. They're okay. We were able to win with them. So they brought back same offensive line. If Andrew Thomas was healthy, we'd have the same starting 5 guys out there. Why last year it looked a little bit better than it did this year? Washington did a very good job shooting the gaps, causing all kinds of havoc in the backfield and everything. Another thing was, like with Washington, is like maybe, when we played them last year, I remember we had Daniel Jones when we were down in Washington. He was a mobile quarterback. Maybe they're just not thinking much about Russell Wilson. Maybe if we get quarterback, maybe if Dart goes in there, a young Dart. I mean, it's the same thing like with Jayden Daniels. If you just shoot the gaps and you go and you try to tackle the ball carrier, Daniels just tucks the ball, runs around the ends, and just takes off running. So a lot of it's got to probably do with possibly the quarterback. Because in 2022, let's not forget also when we had we went to the playoffs, right? We had Saquon and we had Daniel Jones, right? Daniel Jones had quite a bit of running too. So the quarterback got quite a bit to do it as well too. But I mean, why look like they were like they were so bad yesterday, allowing the guys to shoot the gaps and cause all kinds of havoc in the backfield, and they seemed a lot better last year. And to try to fix the offensive, I'm interested to see Bo in there, right? Interesting to see, as the season goes along, will we start seeing Bo? Oh, that would be cool, right? Are we going to bring Illuminor back? Is Bo going to take Illuminor's spot? Is Evan Neal ever going to be anything? Is Andrew Thomas ever going to be able? Is he going to be able to play and stay healthy this year? John Michael Schmitz did not have a banner game. I'm going to go over the PFF. This is a little bit later in our program here, but I'm going to go over John Michael Schmitz. What their PFF grades are and all. He didn't have a phenomenal game either. One Commander's pass rusher, Giants outline has been subpar. Oh yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. Oh no. I mean, you think about it, right? I mean, the Giants. Everybody's talking about the Giants pass rush and all of that, right? And you think about the Commanders. It's like who they got? I mean, remember they had the Fab Four, right? They had those 4 defensive linemen, right? They were all drafted in the first round. Well, they only got, I think, one of them left. I mean, It's just like it's like we're just not ready to play. It's just you got me. Why we look so good in the preseason, right? All three units, first, second, and third, they all look pretty good, right? And out here, so what are we? 3-14. So now we're at between last year and this year. Now we're 3-15. We've won 3 out of our last 18 games. I mean, it just and so many times. It was just in the first half. We just can't score any points. It's unbelievable. It really is. It's absolutely unbelievable. One, kind of good thing, if you want to say, right? Apparently, it looks like at least he wasn't any type of broken bones or anything. So I know Daboll, when the media was talking to him today, of course they asked him about that, but he was on the sideline, but he had some kind of a cast on, I think, on his one leg, but nothing was broken. That's what Daboll said. He said he was going to wind up talking to the to the doctors or whatever. I guess after he got done talking with the media, and apparently he might have a little bit more on Micah. I guess maybe tomorrow, but thankfully at least nothing's been broken. Now, was anything been ripped or tore? I'll have to wind up waiting and see. But I guess it could have been a little bit worse with Micah. But I mean, that was first quarter. It's like. And one of the things they did talk about was that as soon as Muasau went in there, right, Daniels went picked right on him. So it goes to show you how important Micah McFadden is. And that doesn't mean that if Micah McFadden was in there, he wouldn't have given up a touchdown pass. It certainly doesn't mean that. But it just goes to show you as soon as Micah gets carted off the field, Jayden Daniels is like, where's 53? Oh, there you go. How you doing, bro? He probably could. Dude, we're coming right at you, bro. We're throwing a pass, right? Good luck. Good luck. God bless you. Muasau, is good at filling in, but I mean, he's a backup, so going to be interesting to see what the Giants do, because let's not forget, we got Flott, who played, we're going to talk about him a little later in our program about how many snaps he had on. But Banks only played like 11 snaps, 12 snaps, something like that. Didn't play a lot. So we got Belton, who's a backup, but Flott, and we got McFadden. These 3 guys are on contract years this year. So it'll be interesting to see what the Giants try to do, especially trying to maybe re-sign Mr. McFadden. Right? Do we re-sign him and maybe try to get somebody else in the draft if when a Caracay's contract runs up? We'll have to wait and see. Can you imagine the Giants being a good NFL offense with Dart? Oh, yeah. Sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because the nice thing with Scadaboo, I like Tracy too. Tracy, but with Scadaboo can throw the ball, right? He's a good wide receiver. He'll block. I mean, you've seen that one, he wasn't in there for many carries. He wasn't in there for many plays, but he can run the ball. Could you imagine if we actually gave him a hole? Right? Imagine if he only had to take on one guy or something like that. I mean, if we got a hole, got somebody blocking here and somebody blocking there, and Scadaboo gets a little bit of a crease or something, maybe he has to take on one guy on head or something like that. And if he takes one guy on head, and then he gets into the open space. I mean, I'll take Scadaboo one-on-one with a lot of guys. Let me tell you what, especially if it's like a cornerback or something like that. I mean, I'll take Scadaboo. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so you look at it like that with, hopefully if Dart's the real thing, Scadaboo, we got a lot of young guys, but we got to get this offensive line damn thing figured out. It says the Giants avoid the worst with Micah McFadden injury after the quarter number 1. McFadden was undergoing further testing Monday on his leg and foot before a recovery timeline could be established. If McFadden is going to be week to week, he could land on injury reserve for a minimum of 4 weeks. He said, I think he thought when he was out there laying on the ground that he broke his leg. Head coach Brian Daboll said, I know he didn't do that, but he's getting some other things looked at. And the Giants turned to Darius Muasau, the 2024 draft, was a 6th-round pick from last year. He played 38 snaps in place of McFadden. But unfortunately, on Muasau's second play off the bench, Jayden Daniels targeted him in coverage for a 7-yard touchdown pass to Zach Ertz. Man, seeing Mike go down was bad. Brian Burns said that's a tough loss. People don't know how valuable he is to this defense. He flies under the radar a lot. Oh, yeah, but Mike is a baller. Just hope his injury isn't too serious. So, I mean, it could have been worse. He might have to miss some time, but, of course, any series is serious, but at least it wasn't like his knee. Because you don't, a knee could be the ACL, could be all kinds of things, So if it's just his ankle or something like that, and if nothing's broken, hopefully it's not that bad. Wayne Train Gallman, remember him? Huh? Yeah. Let's see, Scatterboo block. Well, that will help. We go. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, because if whoever that guy was coming off the edge, if he just ran over Scatterboo, we're not completing that pass. Scatterboo stood that guy up, man. Oh yeah, Scatterboo. You don't take no crap, man. That's Now we'll benching Dart the way Scatterboo, but I wouldn't put Dart in if there's no hope for the playoff. Let Jameson start and keep developing the kid in practice. Oh, you're talking to him. Oh, okay. So I like Scatterboo. He's definitely. And it says here, the Giants did receive some positive news in the form of a negative X-ray on linebacker Mike McFadden's right ankle. So I said, you don't want any part of your body, obviously, getting injured. But said if it's a knee, it doesn't have to be a broken bone or something like that. I mean, the knee, you can, tear all kinds of stuff in that knee, and your season could be over, right? But in the ankle, obviously there's stuff down there to tear, but it's not as bad as a knee. So hopefully, if he hasn't broken anything, which apparently he hasn't, hopefully it might just be, maybe out for a few weeks, maybe, right? Because I mean, it's obviously it's a twofer, right? It's horrible for the Giants because they lost their starting linebacker and there's nobody, of equal value to play his position behind him. So that's a loss, obviously, for the Giants, but it's also a huge loss for him because even if the Giants don't want to re-sign him, somebody's going to want to re-sign him. It's a big year for him. Obviously, the 4th year, if it's a contract year, right? So he's going to want to put some good stuff out there on tape. Look at me, back-to-back 100 tackle, I mean, he's not Harry Carson, he's not Ray Lewis, he's not Lawrence Taylor, he's not that, but he's going to command some attention. That's for damn sure. So hopefully he'll be back soon. So we'll have to wait and see. But I was saying that if anything, Daboll said he might have more on him apparently tomorrow because Daboll doesn't give out. They don't like giving out anything as far as news or anything. I guess he won't give out much of anything, especially in preseason. But during the regular season, we have to come up with the injury list and all that stuff and everything. So something's got to come out of Daboll's mouth. I guess probably tomorrow, and we'll have a better understanding of what or maybe what a timeline might be for Mike McFadden, because the Cowboys, the Commanders, the Chiefs, the Chargers, then we're playing the Eagles 2 times in 3 weeks or whatever the heck it is. I mean, my goodness, holy crap! If we need all hands on deck, it's really in the first half of this season. Let me tell you what. Yeah, I know. Yeah, McFadden's one of those unsung guys, obviously. All the attention goes, obviously to Holland, right? We just got him at Deebo. We just got him, obviously Bernsey, Kayvon, Sexy Dexy, Carter, Karake. He doesn't get a lot of attention. But Tough guy. All right, now. So obviously the Giants, their offensive line. So there's, let's see here. This is from PFF. I saw that. Yeah, they kind of go over a little bit here. Who gave up what pressure, or what kind of pressures? I know they had. I think they had Hudson with giving up by like 8 pressures. I mean, so you got here. New York Giants offensive line struggles in opener against the Commanders. Well, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. But Russell Wilson spent most of his Giants debut under siege. According to PFF's first review of the game film, Wilson was pressured on 19 of his 45 dropbacks. He took 2 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, and was hurried 13 times. Now, also, I was mentioning too on, Big Blue Kickoff Live, right? I think it was last year. John Schmelk did. There's all kinds of stats and statistics and all that and everything. I can only follow so much of them. But one thing he did do was he looked at what Russell Wilson and did, under pressure and not under pressure. And the times when he was not under pressure, he did a very, very good job for this. Excuse me. He did a very, very good job. Sorry, we're going to, with the ball. Very, very good job. Completion percentage. Obviously doesn't throw interceptions or anything like that. So he was one of the top quarterbacks. When he has a pocket, possibly maybe can roll out away from the pressure or whatever. But he was also one of the worst quarterbacks when he had pressure on him. So there's like the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There's the good, and then there's the bad. If you don't give him a clean pocket, he's got all kinds of, some guys, some of these quarterbacks like Jayden Daniels can just pop out of the pocket and maybe take off and run. Or he can run around enough where you can't catch him and he finally throws the ball, whatever. Well, obviously, was it the 36, 37-year-old Russell Wilson? He can't do that anymore. You know what I mean? So you can't give him a good pocket, The one thing is that you can kind of say in a small way is that the game, Russell didn't throw interceptions, didn't let the game get away. We were halfway through the fourth quarter, we were still only 1 score away. But I mean, it was just that offense was just so freaking painful to watch. The rushing attack offered little relief. New York managed just 72 net rushing yards compared to Washington's 219. Averaging 3.1 yards per attempt. But as I said earlier, if you take Russell Wilson's, right, our running backs went, I think it was 15 times for 30 yards. We averaged 2 yards per attempt. 2 yards. The Giants produced only 1 explosive run of 10-plus yards, and their running backs averaged just 0.3 yards before contact per attempt. So basically, they got a third of a yard on every attempt before they had contact. So so maybe whatever. Half the time they might have got a yard or so past the line of scrimmage before they actually got contact. But as we saw with Scatterbill, quite a few of the times he got nailed in the backfield. Penetration. The Washington Commanders opened the season with 21-6 over the win. Whatever. Oh, here we go. Giants entered 2025 with the number 28th ranked offensive line in PFF's preseason rankings, and that concern showed up immediately in their 21-6 loss to the Commanders. Russell Wilson spent most of the Giants' debut under siege. According to PFF's first review of the game film, he was pressured on 19 of 45 dropbacks. 4 of those pressures came from unlocked defenders. We got here. Left tackle, says James Hudson III, was the main liability, giving up 8 pressures on 45 pass blocking snaps on first review. We're going to go over a little bit more what his grades were and everything like that. But, if this is even close to being true, he gave up 1 pressure. So out of every 11 pass blocking snaps, every 11, he gave up 2 pressures, which is absolutely unfreaking horrible. Greg Van Roten, Jermaine Illuminor, John Runyon, each allowed 2 pressures, and as did John Michael Schmitz. So all the other guys gave up 2 pressures, which still is not very good on 45 pass blocking snap, but it's a heck of a lot better than Hudson did. Right? He gave up 8. Wilson rarely looked comfortable in the pocket. His average depth of target sat at just 6.7 yards. And he attempted only 1 throw of 20-plus yards down the field, which fell incomplete. He averaged 4.5 yards per attempt, which is, you want to average like at least around 7 yards per pass attempt. That's good. I mean, average, shall we say. You get like around 8 plus per pass attempt. That's really good. 4.5 yards per pass, 4.5 yards per pass attempt, and 2 yards per rushing attempt. Holy cow. And he was producing a negative 0.41 expected points added per pass, a mark in the 30th percentile compared to last year's single game outputs. More than 40% of his passes were thrown short of the sticks, and he was hit twice while releasing the football. The rushing attack offered little relief. New York managed just 72 net rushing yards compared to Washington's 219. Let's see here. As I said, the running backs averaged just 0.3 yards before contact per each rushing attempt, and they added a modest value after contact, finishing at 1.7 yards after contact per rush. The bulk of the ground production came from Wilson, which is not something you want to say. I mean, if you got maybe Lamar Jackson, right, maybe Jayden Daniels, something like that, and they're up there amongst the leaders of your team as far as rushing. Well, that's something that's just designed like that. It's not like that with Russell Wilson. Let's see. Wilson scrambled 6 times for 39 yards and added 4 yards on 2 design runs. So basically, he scrambled. He got 39 of his yards rushing from scrambling. Basically, pretty much, I guess, out of necessity. All 5 starters on the Giants' offensive line graded below 66 on first review. We're going to go over that once again in a little bit. I'm going to go over the offensive grades in a little bit here, underscoring the across-the-board struggles in pass protection and the run game. Giants' offensive line issues were the storyline heading into the season, and Week 1 only reinforced why Andrew Thomas's health will be critical. Without him anchoring the unit, New York risks fielding the worst offensive line in the league. I mean, just absolutely, just atrocious. But he was. If he was there, he would have really fixed the struggles that Hudson had. For the most part. One of the things also is that Andrew Thomas is kind of like the Sexy Dexy kind of thing, right? Sexy's coming back from an injury, but Sexy Dexy may not quite fully be in 100% right football shape. Well, same thing Andrew Thomas. He can do whatever he wants on the sideline. He can be in drills. He ain't no football shape either. So, but he would have done a decent job. Or would have done a better job than obviously what Hudson was doing out there. But a lot of those also is in the center of the line as well, though. I'm going to be interested to see what PFF, how they graded, the Giants' offensive linemen, because they could not be very pretty. That's for darn sure. But obviously, we had our offensive line woes in the running game and in the passing game, and so defensive grades. So let me go over the Giants' defensive grades. Let me see here. Let's see where we are there. All right, let's see here. Game reports. And we'll go over the defense. Okay, so let me share my screen here. All right, where are we at here? Move. All right, share a screen. Okay, good old Abdul Carter, right? So this is promising, right? Right. Now, unfortunately, Abdul Carter was only in there for 38 snaps. And as I said, I think he was on 5 special team snaps, which we're going to go over that in a little bit. But graded at 81.5. Not bad for his first official game in the NFL. Graded 81.5. He, let's see, what do we got? 24 pass rushes. He had 3 pressures. Okay. And he had 68. So I guess they had 70. I guess their carry must have came off. So they had 70, right, plays altogether. The Commanders did. He was in there for about half of them, and he had 3 pressures. So they got to try to find a way to maybe get him on the field, maybe a little bit more. Now, the one interesting thing is going to be interesting to see, because let's not forget, in college, Abdul Carter played off-ball linebacker. Hint, hint, wink, wink, maybe. All right, maybe if we get Abdul Carter, Bobby Akarake, one side we got Kayvon, the other one we got Burns, we got Sexy Dexy, and then we got whoever, Roy Robinson Harris, Nacho, Alexander, whoever we're going to put next to Sexy. Maybe Abdul Carter might be off-ball linebacker a lot this week coming up against the Cowboys. Interesting to say. It'll be very, very interesting. But he had a very good game. Once again, as I said, he had 3. Yeah, it was half a sack. So this is the thing I don't like about PFF. They gave him a sack. It was only half a sack. Right? But he had 3. They gave him 3 pressures. So if you look at it like that, once again, he only played about half the snaps. So at this rate, 17-30, he would have 51 pressures for the season. If he had half a sack for each game, that would give him 8.5 sacks for a season. And 51 pressures and playing about half the snaps. So that's not bad. This is his first game. It's not bad, right? Dexter Lawrence, he played almost 50 snaps, right? He'd be graded at 78.5. Elijah Garcia, right? He only played 6 snaps, but this is one of the reasons why we brought him in there. He did a good job at the run defense, right? You're not going to get a ton from him from the pass rush, but he in 6 snaps, he was 73.7. Burns, he had himself a heck of a game. Graded 71. He was in there for 47 snaps. Kayvon was in there, 67.9. Banks was only in there for, apparently, according to PFF, graded out very well, 67.4, but he was in there just for 11 snaps. Now, let's see here. All right. He was not targeted at all. They did not target Banks at all, not one time. Right. All right. Unfortunately, Micah McFadden just played 11 snaps, and that's when he got hurt. He played graded 64.1. Dane Belton was in there for 17 snaps, 57.5. Cordell Flott was in there for 59 snaps. So basically they just Flott was in there for 59 snaps. Banks was in there for the other 11. So 59-11, that's your 70 snaps that the Commanders had on offense. So he 57.1. He graded out a 30, and what do we got? Run, defense, and tackling. So he must have missed a couple tackles, which really, I know there was one play he came in, he kind of blew it up. I know he did very well on one of the plays, but he must have missed a tackle, according to PFF. Let me see here. Hold on. He missed, apparently, according to PFF, he had 3 opportunities to make a tackle. He had 2 tackles, and he missed 1. So he had a 33% missed tackle rate. So that's according to PFF. Right. So that's where they really seem to ding him. Whoops. All right. Oh. I lost the page here. Try this again. Defense. All right. Then you got Paulson and Deebo, 56.7. He played all 70 snaps. Let's see how was he targeted? What do we got here? Yeah, he had himself. Look, he had seven tackles. Right, he didn't miss any. Right. I don't know. They graded him out really. He got targeted 5 times. He only gave up 2 completions. What do you got? He gave up a grand total of 18 yards on 2 completions. I'm not exactly sure, why he graded out so poorly, but Andrew Phillips, graded 54.5. Roy Robinson Harris was in there for 47 snaps, 54.4. Bobby Okereke, 68 snaps. He was in there for almost the whole game, 53.9. But if you look here, I mean, he had himself a whale of a game here. 9 tackles and 6 assisted tackles. He had himself a heck of a ball game. Apparently, according to them, he missed 1. So he had himself a heck of a ball game, Mr. Okereke. DJ Davidson was in there, 15 snaps, 52.4. Tyler Newman was in there for all 70 snaps, 51.2. Nacho was in there for 32 snaps, 49.9. Chauncey Golston was in there for 11 snaps, 43.1. See, he didn't have any. Chauncey Golston, I wanted to say he didn't. It's like he didn't dent the scoreboard at all. He had no pressures, according to PFF, and no tackles of any kind. Javon Holland, 41.5, and Darius Muasau. He played 38 snaps, graded out of 30. So unfortunately, you go from Micah McFadden, and I know last year, one of the games, Micah graded out like a 90. I mean, let's say here. Where we at here? Micah McFadden. He had, he's had some good games here. There you go. All right, so let's go last year. Let's see if can I click on this here? Oh, here we go. Here we go. We do 2024. Right, last year. Oh, he didn't. Oh, it wasn't a 90. I'm sorry. The first game. Look, against the Commanders, he graded 87.8. He graded 82 one game against Dallas, 78.4. He had some good games last year. Graded 62.8 overall. He had 75 tackles, 26 assisted tackles. Very, very good. Really good year for him. So, all right. So that was the defense. So obviously Abdul Carter had himself a pretty good game. He said that at the press conference, Dable was trying to answer why they only had him in there for so many snaps. And it's a long season, and you don't want to be obviously wearing these guys out. So, but if you keep seeing good production like that, obviously there's a good chance you're certainly going to want to get the guy on there more often than just 37 snaps, right? I mean, you can tell the guy's a difference maker. So if we only had that on the offensive side. Now, I've got to go over the Giants. How bad is the Giants' run defense? Well, yesterday was not very good at all. It was not very good. I said some of it also has to do, obviously, with, obviously this guy right here, Mr. Daniels. You have to be very careful on, any handoff, because if you go after the ball carrier and he just tucks the ball in and runs around the edge or whatever, he'll pick up some yardage. Now, I think it was his first run of the game, if I'm not mistaken. Burnsy didn't crash down or nothing. Daniels, faked the handoff, turned around, and was starting to run around the edge, and Burnsy was just standing there. And I'm like, yeah, come on, Burnsy, you got him, baby. But, Daniels got around the edge, got to the outside, and picked up, I guess about 5 yards or so, whatever it was. I mean, it was – so Burnsy was even there, and he still got around the edge on him. He's just a fantastic, athlete. You got to give the man his props. The one thing is that what the only thing I obviously it's fantastic to have like a Lamar Jackson, a Daniels or something like that, because that's so much of their game, right? Obviously, passing is too. Don't get me wrong, but running is such a big portion of their game. If you run the ball, what did Daniels? What was it? Box score, was it 11 times he ran yesterday? Yeah, 11 times. So, I mean, that's almost 190 times in a year. That's a lot of running for a quarterback. That's running attempts. And that's not times getting sacked or releasing the ball and getting hit and stuff like that. But you run the ball 190 times, that's a lot of hits. right? 17 games is a lot. I mean, you twisted a knee, whatever, hurt your ankle, hurt your foot, whatever, something like that. If you're kind of pretty much more or less forced to stand in the pocket and complete passes, it's a whole new ball game. So if the next time we got to face him, maybe I don't know, he might be dinged up a little bit. But I said that's a lot of times to get carried, a lot of carries. But I did see this. Some of this is from last year. I know they talk about and how the Giants had to build upon, right, their run defense. How bad is the Giants' run defense, and how can it be fixed? Well, let's see here. Let's see. Oops. The raw numbers of the Giants' run defense were not great. This is from last year, and it hasn't gotten any better this year. Giants gave up 2,316 yards on the ground, 136.2 per game. Sixth most in the NFL, while their 4.6 yards per carry allowed was tied for seventh most. That simply isn't good enough for a defense as talented as the Giants appear to be in 2025, and those numbers have to go down without question. See, but also see some of it also, it's got to do with our offense, right? When it's the second half, fourth quarter, and the Giants are losing, the other team when they're on offense, they can dictate what they want to do. They can run the ball twice and then throw it. They try not to throw it incomplete because that would stop the clock. But they can run the ball, right, and chew up the clock and all that because they have the lead. When the Giants are down like they were yesterday, right? When they're down 21-6 halfway through the fourth quarter, well, Russell Wilson's not going to turn around and let's establish the run with Tyrone Tracy. Let's establish the run here. It's got 7 minutes to go in the game. We're down by 15 points. Let's establish. You're not doing that. You have to throw the ball. Well, that's what the other teams were able to do last year. They could run the ball. Right? Is where the Giants, But I mean, if the Giants ever actually had any type of offense who could stay on the field, control the clock, control the ball, and all of that, if the Giants' defense is on the sideline, where we hope it would be, right, they're not giving up any yards, they're not giving up any points. So a lot of things are pretty misleading. Because you look at it, it's like you look at the Giants' defense, they give up all these yards, and then you look at the Eagles' defense. The Eagles' defense only gives up this many points and this many yards. It's like, wow, they're so much better than the Giants blow. Well, not necessarily. The Eagles have an offense. They have a very good offensive line. They're able to stay on the field. They can turn around and hand the ball off to Saquon anytime they want. Right? They have 2 number 1 wide receivers they can throw the ball to. Right? They have an offense, stays on the field, chews up the clock. Their defense is on the sideline, not giving up any yards, not giving up any points. So therefore, their defense is also rested too. It's not 1, 2, 3 punt like the Giants offense. 1, 2, 3 punt. 1, 2, 3 punt. Our defense keeps running onto the field. After a while, you get tired. Right? But if we actually had an offense that can do anything and stay on the field, our defense is on the sideline. If we actually would have a lead, right? We're not giving up running yards. The Giants are up by 14 points heading into the fourth quarter. The other team, for the most part, is probably going to try to pass the ball, right? They're not going to try to run the ball. So the Giants' offense, the yards per carry goes down. Maybe the amount of running yards per game that goes down. All goes hand in. It's all relative, right? Let's see. So the Giants. Let's see. The question it becomes obviously how do they fix it? Well, part of it I said, it's got a lot to do with the offense. Offense helps out the defense. You got offense that's on the field, controlling the clock and the ball and all. The defense is on the sideline, not giving up any points or any yards. So therefore, the defense looks better, right? So let's take things a step further and go a bit beyond the box score. Player tracking data from Next Gen Stats has been a revolution in how we look at and think about the game of football. Being able to see where all players are in relation to each other on any moment-by-moment basis has enabled whole new levels of analysis. One of my favorites is ESPN's win rate family of stats, and in this case, I want to look at the run-stop win rate. They define a run-stop win as any of the following: beating a blocker so he's in better position to stop the runner, disrupting the pocket. Let me share this here. Let's see. All right, so here we go. So see, there's so many metrics out there. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. See, when I first started, watching football, right, back in 1970, they turn around and they'd hand the ball off. The guy would get the ball and he'd run into the line of scrimmage and he'd get tackled. And it's like, yeah, that run sucked. Now, or he'd pick up 6 or 7 or 8 yards. Yeah, that run was good. Now there's a win rate family of stats. Now they got. Now, of course, this one is the run stop win rate. It wasn't like that 55 years ago when I first started watching football. Run stop win rate. They call it disrupting the pocket or running lane by pushing his blocker backwards, containing the runner such that he must adjust his running lane, or recording a tackle within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage. Based on those criteria, how would you guess the Giants' defense ranked? 32nd? 30th? Surely they were in the bottom quartile, so 25th? 10th. So the Giants were actually good. Okay? Giants defense as a whole had the 10th best run-stop win rate last year. 10th. So what gives? They were right behind the Rams, who were 11th, and the Jets, who were number 9, and were only 1 point behind the Philadelphia Eagles, who were 3rd. That's pretty much in line with the efficiency numbers. Per Pro Football Reference, the Giants defense provided 7.19 expected points added, which ranks 17th in the NFL, also which puts them just behind the Chargers. So why were the results so dramatically different? First part, as I talked about above, and I've written about this before, is that the Giants they didn't finish. Missed too many tackles. Now, one of the things as far as missing tackles, obviously, is missing tackles, but there's also a thing called missing tackles because you're tired. When you've been out there, you're sucking wind. It's tired. I know it's no excuse, but you start getting tired, you start missing tackles. Or if you're getting blown out, some guys start, just packing it up for the day, right? The Giants actually did a good job of winning their run defensive snaps and putting themselves in position to suffocate opposing running games. However, they allowed far too many leaky yards. Poor tackle attempts leading to broken or missed tackles kept the average high and the yards piling up. But as I mentioned, that did improve over the course of the year, and the defenders did a better job of disrupting runs than making tackles when Shane Bowen pivoted to calling a more aggressive, penetrating defense with Elijah Chapman and Elijah Garcia as the starters once Dexter Lawrence went down. For the other part of the equation, I want to look at the Detroit Lions. The Lions had the 5th best run defense in the NFL last year, allowing just 98.4 yards per game. Obviously, you'd expect a team with the Super Bowl aspirations to give up 40 yards fewer per game than the lowly Giants. What you did not expect is that the Giants allowed 4.5 yards per carry. Right? The Giants gave up 4.6. The Lions gave up 4.5. But once again, the Lions, some of it's also, as I said, they can throw all the numbers that they want, is that the Lions a lot of times had the lead. When the Lions, at the end of the game, have a lead, the other team has to pass the ball. When you pass the ball, you pick up passing yardage. You don't pick up running yardage. There's a difference. The Lions scored points. The Giants didn't score any points. So another thing is that, if the Lions get the ball and walk down the field and score a touchdown, right, you got to score a touchdown, right? So, They pass the ball down the field. You're going to pass the ball maybe down the field. Right? You got to keep up with them. Right? The Lions score points. The Giants didn't. Giants didn't score any points, and also the Giants were behind a lot. That's a recipe for giving up a lot of yards. So, of the top 10 run defenses in the NFL in yards per game, 7 of them were in the top 10 of scoring offense. Once again, when you score a lot of points, it forces the other team, right, to score a lot of points. And a lot of times, to score a point, they're going to score a lot of points. You got to pass the ball. It's tough to, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, 20 play drive down the field. It's very difficult. You can't score 6 touchdowns. Very difficult by those long drives of just handing the ball off. That's not happening. So the teams that scored a lot gave up a lot fewer running yards. And then the Chargers gave up 117.5 rushing yards per game, which was just outside of the top 10. They were 11th. So once again, score a lot of points, you give up fewer running yards. And of the top 10 in run defense, 9 were in the top 10 of fewest rushing attempts against, and 7 of them were in the top 10 of most passing. Right? Once again, score points, your running numbers, rushing defense numbers look better. Got to score points. Giants don't score any points. So the Giants averaged 1.45 yards per drive last year, less than half the 3.04 average by the Lions and 0.62 below the NFL average of 2.07. So they were well below average points scored per drive, 1.45. That coincidentally would slot in just behind the Falcons, who saw the NFL's 16th most rushing attempts against and gave up the 15th most rushing yards at 120.6 points per game. Oh, and the Falcons gave up 4.5 yards per carry last year. Basically about the same as the Giants did. Say the Giants, meanwhile, saw 503 rushing attempts against them, which was tied for the 6th most in the NFL. So what does this all mean? The answer is not great, but not as bad as it seems as first. Well, I mean, one of them, obviously, they got to score points. The more points you score, it's going to force the other team to throw the ball. Plain and simple. Got to score points. Yeah. The advanced stats suggest that the Giants defenders were often winning their assignments and in position to make plays. They just didn't finish. That's not good and absolutely needs to improve. Now, one of the things it doesn't talk about is when did the Giants win their assignments and were in position to make plays. This doesn't say this. This is why some of this stuff is a little off. It doesn't make much sense to me because it's like the Giants were in position to make a tackle. They won their assignment. Okay, but when in the game was it? Was it late in the fourth quarter when they were maybe tired? Well, was it early in the game when they were fresh? I mean, when was there a certain percentage of the time when the Giants missed a lot of tackles? I said, was it the end of the game when they've been on the field for 70, 80 snaps or whatever? Yeah. But given the Giants were frequently relying on young players like Newman and Phillips, injured players like Bobby Okereke and Brian Burns, or depth players like Deebo Samuel and Elijah Garcia, there was absolute room for a significant improvement. Giants' raw numbers were bad, but they weren't terrible on average. Their average efficiency was above average, while their win rate was so legitimately good. The biggest problem was that there were so many rushing attempts that the yardage just piled up, and over time, all those rushing attempts were opportunities for an opposing professional to make a play. Absolutely. Run defense is a team effort. It takes 11 players on defense working as a unit to function in the moment. But it also demands that the offense do its job and score points to force the other team to pass in order to keep pace. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the biggest thing. Giants have to score points. And, we have, 15, 16 points 2 years ago, 15 points, 16 points last year. We're scoring 2 touchdowns a game. I mean, you got to score points. Plain and simple, right? You got to force the other team to pass the ball, right? And speaking of passing, now, of course, you get this. Of course, you wind up seeing so many people, put in Jackson Dart. Is Russ Wilson to blame? Yeah, yada, yada, yada. I mean, some of it is obviously is yes, but some of, what happened yesterday, right, is, some of it, the Giant had a couple drops. There were not many, but, he can't perform. He's not good under pressure. He's not good with people, right? And laying his feet. He's 5'11". He's not that tall. I mean, if he was like 6'4", 6'5", he was an extra half a foot taller. Maybe the guys got close to him, he could still maybe see over the field, right? Like with Drew Brees. You get pressure on Drew Brees up the middle. Drew Brees was short, right? Give him a good pocket, right? That's why a lot of times the Saints, when they had Drew Brees there, a lot of times they would get high draft picks on offensive linemen. But I mean, unlike the Giants would draft offensive linemen high, and a lot of times it doesn't work out. The Saints would draft offensive linemen high, and it would work out, right? But they would get it. They knew that the team went around Drew Brees. As Drew Brees could complete passes, they could score points and all that. But you got to keep a short quarterback. You got to where you can look down the field, and he can't look down the field if there's a guy a yard away from him. Right? Those guys are huge, absolutely huge. So, I mean, part of it's Russell Wilson's fault. Part of it's the offensive line fault. As Dable said that Wilson's a starting quarterback for week 2 against the Cowboys. Going to be interesting to see, how the season goes. If and when Dart winds up getting put in there. Now, apparently, Dart did have there were some plays Dart had. A package, shall we say, but I guess it never wound up coming to fruition, right? Hopefully Wilson, plays better. Hopefully the offensive line plays better against the Cowboys. The Cowboys did a very good job against the Eagles. Their run defense was very, very good, right? Doesn't look like the Giants are going to have a cakewalk trying to run the ball, right? The problem also is that, the Cowboys are probably going to put up some points, right? So that's what's going to put some pressure on, the Giants, obviously, to put up some points to try to, they score a touchdown, we score a touchdown. They score a touchdown, we score. They're going to put up some points. I mean, don't look for the Giants to go in there and, just give up 10 points and we'll win the game 13-10. I mean, a good chance the Cowboys are going to score in the 20s, right? And we got to do the same, right? Is what it was said. Unfortunately, we look to see the long moon ball from Wilson yesterday. Well, that really wasn't the case. A lot of the quick stuff. They said a good portion of his throws were, unfortunately, didn't even reach the sticks. So they better figure something out. I know that what they would try to do is try to get the ball out of Wilson's hand fast because he does take sacks, right? Doesn't want to throw the interception, doesn't throw the ball in harm's way, so he does take sacks. So they try to get the ball out of his hands fast. But you need those explosive plays. I forgot what the percentage was. I can't remember. It goes up exponentially if you complete a pass of or a play of 15 yards or more on a drive, just one. The chance of you scoring goes up a lot. It's so difficult to dink and dunk your way down the field, a 5-yard completion on first down, pick up 3 yards on a run, pick up 2 yards on a run, 10 yards first down. Pick up 3 yards, pick up 6 yards, pick up 3 yards first down. pick up 2 yards, pick up 2 yards, pick up 7 yards, first down, pick up. It's so difficult to do that all the way down the field. Usually a sack, a penalty, or a drop pass or something just blows that out of the water. It's so important to get those big chunk plays, right? Now, let's see. Let me see here. Here we go. All right, play by play. Here we go. Now let's look on the Commanders. Okay, they finally scored it. They got a touchdown here. Okay, it's weird. There was only 3 possessions in the first quarter. I said they scored a touchdown. Let's see here. Did they 6-yard, 34-yard pass? Okay, and I think somebody had a metric. I think it was at least 15 yards. Usually, if you can get a 20-yarder, that's really good. But somebody, I can't remember who was, does all kinds of metrics and everything. He said, if you can get at least one play of 15 yards, the chances of you scoring goes up immensely. Now, on the Commanders' first touchdown, they had a 6-yard run, 34-yard pass play, 8-yard run, an 18-yard pass play, an 8-yard run, 4-yard run, 4-yard run, 7-yard touchdown. That was 7-yard touchdown pass. That was after. That's when Muasat went into the game, right? So they had 2 plays of over 15 yards on that drive. Not one negative play. Not one incompletion, nothing. Walked right down the field, just like butter. 7-yard touchdown pass. Okay, so then let's go to their second touchdown, which happened in the second quarter. Let's see what they had. 11-yard run, and we had a sack, which usually is a drive killer. Nope. And they had a 16-yard pass play, so they had one play of at least 15 yards. 5-yard penalty, 5-yard penalty, another sack. And they had a 13-yard pass, 11-yard, 6-yard touchdown run. So they had, let's see here, 5-yard pass with the penalty on Washington Brown, offensive offside. Okay. Nunez Roaches had defensive holding. Okay, so they had one. They had one. They had a 16-yard play. So there was another on their other scoring drive, their second scoring drive. They had at least one play of 15 yards. But they had 11. They had one double digit. They had a 16-yard, another double digit. They had a 13-yard pass play. They had an 11-yard run. So they had 4 plays on that drive. And we even had 2 sacks. 2 sacks or 1 sack? We had 2 sacks on one drive. That should automatically be a drive killer. Nope. They had 4 plays of double-digit yards, and one of them was over 15 yards. Once again, one play of 15 yards, and the chance of scoring a touchdown goes up immensely. So then we'll go to, and I know on their final touchdown they had big plays. 14-yard run, 2-yard run, 11-yard pass, 3-yard run, 10-yard penalty, 12-yard run, 19-yard pass. Actually had an incompletion. Oh, my goodness. 5-yard penalty, 15-yard pass, 19-yard touchdown. So they had 3 plays on their final drive of 15 yards or more. So you see, how unbelievably important it is to get those big plays in there, right? The Giants had one run of 10 yards or more, right? Let's see here. What do we got here? The Giants had, let's see now. And I know they had, let's see, a box score. I know they had a couple pass plays, obviously, or more than, let's see. Malik Neighbors had a 25-yard reception. Wandale Robinson had a 20. Let's see here. Only scary. Russell Wilson had a 15-yard run. Yeah. But, I mean, it's all, is it Russell Wilson's fault? Well, part of it because his age, his height. It's just he's in the pocket. He doesn't move around. Maybe he does take off, but he's not what he used to be. So part of it maybe is his fault. If you were able to give him a clean pocket, right, have him stand in there, right, results might have been a little bit different, but it certainly wasn't all his fault. You can't give a short quarterback, right, pressure up the middle and expect them to do wonderful things. Right? You got to get that figured out. The thing is that every game is different. It's not, well, the Giants' offensive line stunk last week, so they're going to stink this week. Yeah, you don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But whatever they better get that. Yeah, damn well better get that figured out, because they can't. Where we at? Here we go. If they can't get their offensive line figured out, especially up the middle, they can't get that figured out. A lot of trouble. Once again, a lot of trouble. Because you don't want to also become one-dimensional. Well, we can't run the ball, so we have to throw the ball on every, right? So the Giants' team grades, according to PFF, right, after their week 1 loss. Let's take a look. Now, let's not also keep in mind, too, right, the Giants, it's just preseason, but they were ranked as the number 1 team, according to PFF, after preseason. They were the number 1 team. But that doesn't necessarily mean squat in the regular season, as we see. Giants look like world beaters first 3 games of preseason, right? First game of the regular season, it's like, what happened to that team in preseason? We stink now, right? So actually, I don't know if they probably don't have, PFF probably does not have the Chicago Bear Minnesota Viking game in here. But the Giants were, once again, they were at the bottom of the team rankings. Hard to believe. All right, so let me share the screen here. All right, let me share this, but let me go here. Whoops. All right, we'll go by team here, right? 2025. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay, no, the Bears and the Vikings, right? Where they at? The Vikings, they don't have any grades yet because they just played. All right, so let's go to the number 1 overall team. The Rams, 81.7 team grade after week 1. Let's go all the way down to the bottom down there. The Giants. Giants are number 29. The only team that was worse than the Giants, team grade-wise, is the Dolphins, who lost to Daniel Jones. Right? Giants, 56.5. And just make it feel a little bit better, we're just below the Chiefs. Somehow the Chiefs barely, almost won the football game. And they were absolutely just straight up atrocious. All right, let's see here. We got offensive grades, the whole team. The Jets, 79.6. Where were the Giants? Giants are number 26, 58.7. Passing grade. The Rams, 93.8. The Giants passing grade, 25, 54.5. And actually, this 25 might be a little misleading because let's not forget the Bears and the Vikings might be in front of the Giants, might be higher. So the Giants might actually be 27th as far as passing grades. Pass blocking. Colts with protecting Daniel Jones, right? They were number 1, 86.5. That's one of the reasons why he had such a great day. Good pass protection. He never had that with the Giants, right? So we'll go pass protection with the Giants. Giants somehow, I don't know how, but 67.9. PFF has the Giants at 67.9 pass blocking grade. We were 10th. Receiving. The Jets, 79.2 are number 1. The Giants are number 24. 58.9. Running grade. The Commanders, there you go, who beat up on the Giants. 83.9 is their running grade. 83.9. Let's see here. Giants number 18. Whoops. My cursor, there we go. 64.7. Giants are number 18, 64.7. I don't know how that is unbelievably horrible as we were. Somehow the Giants graded that high. Run blocking. The Ravens number 1, 72.8. Let's see here, the Giants. Run blocking, we're 20th. 53.2. Defense, overall defense. Who was number one? Brown, 76.2. And it works out kind of weird because both these teams played each other, the Bengals and the Browns, right? All right, so we got the Giants defensive grade. See, the Commanders were way up there, right? They were number 7 overall, the defense. The Giants defense, 27th, 54.1. And once again, the Bears and the Vikings are not in here. So the Giants could actually, according to PFF, could be actually graded at 29th for the defense overall. Run defense. Commanders, number 1, 88.3. Of course, the Giants, I'm just going to go to the bottom. All right, Giants, number 25 overall, 59.5. They're on our run defense. Tackling. The Lions, 86.6. Well, good thing for them because they wound up getting whooped up on by the Packers, and their tackling was good. So imagine if the Lions' tackling was bad, right? Okay, so we got the Giants, the tackling. The Giants are 17th, 59 overall tackling. And then we got, let's see, pass rush. What we got there? Pass rush. Texans, number 1, 81.9. The Commanders had a good one, right? Commanders, they were 7th overall. What are the Giants at there? Giants are 14th, 65.7 with our pass rush. We did get 3 sacks though, so. And that's not easy on Jayden Daniels. So we got 3 sacks. So coverage. The Cardinals, 87. Very impressive. Where are we at here? 87. The Giants, 27th, 45.3 in coverage. And finally, special teams grade here. Overall, special teams grade. Saints were number 1, 81.1. And the Giants were 19th special teams grade, 59.1. So, not very impressive at all. Not very impressive at all. As I said, the interesting thing is that the Giants, as in regular season, right? Giants regular season were number 1 rated team by PFF. Also in 2019 as well, the Giants were also undefeated in 2019 during the preseason, and they were, by PFF, they were graded the number 1 team. But just because you're rated the number 1 team after the preseason, it doesn't mean jack, because in 2019 the Giants didn't do very well either. So let's do the Giants offensive grades following our week 1 loss. All right, so let's share the screen again here. All right, so I got to go. Let me see here. Let me click on the Giants here. All right, we'll go to game reports, and we'll go offense. We'll see. Giants didn't have a lot of guys in there. Didn't have a lot. Only had 17 guys play. Even Marcus Bowe got in there for 2 snaps. Cool. But they had a lot of the same guys pretty much, right? All right, so Daniel Bellinger, always in it for 15 snaps. He graded out 84.4. Cam Scatterbill, 8 snaps. He graded out 75.6. 8 snaps. So unfortunately, 2 of the guys that graded out really high hardly played at all. Malik Neighbors, 64 snaps. He graded out a 68. Wando Robinson, caught a lot of passes, 52 plays. He was in there for 65.7. Tyrone Tracy was in there for 50 snaps, graded out 63.7. John Runyon, 68 snaps. So basically, the whole game, graded out 63.5. Greg Van Roten, 68 snaps, 61.2. Now you look, right? Their pass blocking was not that bad. A lot of it was their run blocking, which brought them down, right? John Michael Schmitz, 68 snaps, 58.1. Once again, his pass blocking was 67.3, but his run blocking 52.5. So you notice these guys, their run blocking was in the 50s. Their pass blocking was in the upper 60s and the 70s. So the pass blocking wasn't that bad. It was their run blocking. which was really, really bad. If you become a one, if you can only throw the ball, I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. Then we got, let's see. Motor Singletary was in there for 10 snaps, 56.1. James Hudson, 68 snaps at 55. So his pass blocking was 47.2. Not good at all. Bo Collins was in there for 2 snaps. He rated at 54.8. Russell Wilson obviously was in there for every snap. Rated at 54.1. Theo Johnson, 53 snaps, 53.3. Jermaine E. Luminor was in there for every snap, well, 68. 52.5. Once again, pass blocking was very good. His run blocking. Right? All the guys, all their run blocking grades were very bad. Chris Manhurst was actually in there for 18 snaps. He graded out of 52.4. Darius Slayton was in there for 66 snaps, 49.1. And Marcus Bowe was in there for 2 snaps. He graded out of 47.9. So, but as I said, but you notice that, the offensive linemen, right? Their pass blocking was adequate. It certainly could have been better, without question. But what brought all of them down, their grades brought all their grades down was the run blocking. Too much penetration, especially as I said, up the middle. I mean, it's like, I know there was one play, and it's really it's the hardest block to make. It's that reach block when you got somebody who's off you or even right on top of you, and they're crashing down, and you got to try to somehow get in front of them. I mean, there was one of the I think it might have been Theo Johnson was supposed to, get in front of a linebacker, and it wasn't even close. The guy was the linebacker just shot inside. Theo didn't. I think it was Theo didn't have a chance. The guy was in the backfield making a tackle or causing all kinds of havoc, But see, a lot of that also doesn't happen if you have a quarterback that can maybe tuck the ball and take off. The Giants can't really afford to do that with Jayden Daniels, right? If he's got the ball, right, it doesn't mean he goes around like this. It doesn't mean he's necessarily going to hand the ball off. For the most part, Russell Wilson's either going to hand the ball off or he's going to keep it and he's going to maybe throw the ball, right? But not with Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels can hand the ball off. Jayden Daniels can tuck it and maybe throw it, or Jayden Daniels can keep it and run it. And Jayden Daniels keeps it in run. There's some guys that can, maneuver and get some yards, slide down, get a first down or whatever. The other guys that get in the open, they're gone. Get Lamar Jackson. I mean, that's one of the reasons why their offense, their running game is so amazing. Yeah, because he's got the ball, he's going to turn around and hand the ball off. Well, some of the guys got to pay attention to the running back, and some of the guys got to pay attention to Lamar Jackson. Right? When you got Russell Wilson turn around and handing the ball off, it's a little bit different story. There's probably not many design plays in there for Russell Wilson to keep the ball and try to get around the edge and pick up some yardage. It just doesn't happen that much, Hopefully, as I said, the Giants wind up, cleaning that up because, the Cowboys, that didn't look too bad. You hold the Eagles, to 24 points. It's, opening game of the year, right? That's not too bad. Not too bad. I mean, if CeeDee Lamb wants all that money, right? Wants all that money. I don't know how many drops he had. Good chance the Cowboys could have pulled that game out, but it is what it is. So, finally, let's go over the special teams grades here, shall we? Good, Mr. Graham Gano. I mean, the one nice thing about him, especially the way it was a few years ago, before, it was in 2022, right? The year before he started getting injured. I mean, he had so many. I think it was like 8 out of 9 or 9 out of 10 on 50-plus yard field goal attempts. It was just like. It was just so good. So good. The same thing, 55-yarder. Just hopefully he can stay healthy because, it's one of the reasons why we lost to the Commanders last year. The first time we played in Washington was because didn't have a kicker. All right, so let me finally here share my screen one more time. We'll go over the special teams. Now, I'm sure Mr. Carter should be up there pretty high. Hey, look at him. He was number one. He graded out at a 90. Mr. Carter. He's only in there for 5, right? All punt return. Right? Graded out at a 90. Going to be interesting to see if they keep him in there. Punt return. Right? So you try to get him in there, bend around the corner to try to block those punts. Right? So what do we got here? How many? Usually you get a lot. Yeah, what do we have? 32 guys on special teams. Yeah. A lot of contributors. Now, Mike McFadden even got in there, right? Before he got injured. Let's see here. Graded out of 70.3. Nick Jones, right? He's good depth at cornerback, but big on special teams, right? He was in there for 14 special team snaps. He graded out of 68.6. Now, around average is around 60. You'll notice here there's a lot of guys grading out at 60, 61, and stuff like that. That's pretty much like average. You start grading out in the 50s and the 40s on special teams, that's not good. You grade out in the upper 60s and above on special teams, that's good. But you'll notice there'll be a lot of guys here grading out kind of average. Javon Holland, 3 special team snaps. He graded out 68.2. Casey Kreider, long snapper, right? 8 snaps total, 64.2. Chauncey Golston, 21 special team snaps. So he played a lot. So just because maybe he wasn't on a defensive line, right? He was out there. He's out there for 21 special team snaps. So he played over 30 snaps between the defense and the special teams. But he graded out 62.3. Art Green, same thing. Just some depth in the secondary. But you see it here, 21 special team snaps, 61.2. DJ Davidson, 4 snaps. He graded a 61.1. Demetrius Flanagan Fowles, 17 snaps, 60. He graded out a 60. Now, the whole bunch of these other guys would be at 60, right? Jamie Gillen, Nacho, Banks, Kayvon, Runyon, Okereke, Schlottman, Wando Robinson, Hudson, Bernsey. Even Bernsey even got in there for 1. Aaron Stinney, Illuminor, Graham Gano. Graham Gano. All right. All those guys graded out of 60, which is rough, right around average. All right. Then you got Sexy Dexy was in there for 2 snaps, 59.8. Roy Robinson Harris was in there for 3 snaps. He graded 59.1. Bo Collins was in there for 9, 58.8. Chris Manhertz, 12 snaps, 58.6. Gunnar Olszewski was in there for 9 snaps, 56.4. Daniel Bellinger, 15 snaps, 56.1. Dane Belton, 21 snaps, 55.2. Tyler Newman, 6 snaps, 54.2. Darius Muasau, 15 snaps, 53.3. And the worst one, Chris Board. Now, interesting because Chris Board was supposed to be a big-time special teams contributor, which he was, 21 special team snaps, but according to here, he only graded out a 30.2. What do we got here? Anything? Doesn't say. Penalties, tackles, it says they didn't. So missed tackles. Yeah, don't know. He just did not have a very good, according to PFF anyway. That's all it is, according to PFF. Chris Board, 21 snaps, 30.2, which is really, really bad. But obviously, I said here, Carter. Going to be interesting to see, especially against the Cowboys, if we keep him on punt return. We put him on the edge and he rushes, right? Gets around the edge, see if he can stick his hand out there again and maybe make a block. So let's just say by these grades, I mean, the Giants have a lot to clean up, a whole lot to clean up. Thankfully, the one nice thing is that there's, every game is different. Just because, the Cowboys did this against the Eagles doesn't mean it's going to happen against the Giants. The Giants have a chance to clean some stuff up. Right? Every game is different. It's just that, for us fans, as I said, between last year and this year, now we're 3-15. It's like the past 3 years, the first game we're outplayed, outcoached, out everything. It's like it's got to stop. It's got to stop. Good coaches find ways to at least be competitive. Maybe not win, but be competitive. And the Giants, a lot of these games are just not competitive. I said, good coaches. You know, if Brian Daboll needs everything to be perfect before we're competitive and we start winning, that's not a good sign. Which makes you kind of scratch your head even more, because it's like, well, in 2022 we won a lot of one-score games. We won them, right? But we found ways to win them, right? He took a bad team with no salary cap. We were 9-7-1. We went to the playoffs, won a playoff game. But ever since then, it's been downhill. And it's really, really difficult being a Giant fan. All right, guys, but 1 hour and 56 minutes. Whoever spent any time listening to me live, thank you. If anybody's going to watch any of the replays, once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. As always, you guys stay safe out there and go Giants! Woo! Oh, yeah. Thank you.